The next one this week is the first metric assignment. We've got a metric template now. We're ready to do some metric drawing. So rocker arm number one. It's kind of a traditional approach here to a instructional set. I feel like that's why I keep this drawing in here, is it's somewhat making us learn from an AutoCAD textbook style of training, which I've seen a lot of training modules. Like it seems like I've seen some drafting departments, if they've built some training modules for new employees, it might consist of a similar way of like screenshots. Could be a PowerPoint that's built kind of like this textbook assignment is built. So I think this is valuable to like learn this way. And some people really prefer assignments to be broken down this way. I don't do very many like this. I have pulled a lot of our assignments out of books that do probably have step by steps, but I end up putting that into my own video mostly. It could just be that I have some preferences on how I draw compared to how they're telling me to do it in the book, but it's still valuable. And so what's going on here is that we have to do this rocker arm on our metric template. Should upload a DWG and a PDF, full scale. This part should, my viewport should be at full scale, showing my object is one to one. I've got some resources. I'm going to build a video that I'll upload right now. But it's got this is out of an AutoCAD fundamentals book. And I'm going to use pages 213 through 228 to do this. So like I say, they're a common way to learn. I think in the architectural side of things, you might do a lot of assignments where this is how to understand how to do the assignment. So I think that's what I mentioned here. Yeah. So you need to open this PDF, which is just one chapter out of a book. And to do this assignment, I give no dimensions here. In fact, the way they actually have you build this is minimal on the dimensions anyway, kind of. I do want you to take a look at the rubric though, because there's some key things we're going to pull out of this when we draw it. We draw according to directions, and it's a DWG. You've uploaded a canvas that we're using that text style we created, which is a 3 mm. We got our drawing weights showing up, our line weights showing up correct on the PDF. One-to-one scale, no dimensioning still. That we're going to use the six-sided polygon command to place one of the features of the object, and then a four-sided polygon was used to create another feature of the object. And then we have some specific lengths we might be looking for. This top tangent line is going to be this length. The bottom or center distance between a polygon and a hole is this long. And the angle distance from top tangent line is kind of an angular distance or dimension here, 11.68 millimeters degrees, and that the object is located correctly on the origin point. So this one kind of uses origin point, uh, like we did one drawing with coordinate points last week. This one also uses that. What it does is this is kind of a symmetrical part in a way, is I think the outline, um, and the origin point ends up being kind of like the geometric center of the overall outline of this shape, which happens to be like I think dead center of this six-sided polygon. So here's the six-sided polygon, here's the four-sided polygon, here's a circle. So let's open up. What you have to have is this fundamentals opened up. I think I have a version of it on my same thing saved on my computer this week. Fundamentals. Yeah, I'll open up this PDF. So, sorry. Here's the PDF that would open up. I don't know how many pages this is, but this is just a chapter out of it. See, it's even dates from 2018. So some of the stuff is well, it's outdated, but still, I like some of the commands it's using. Because we haven't used Polygon and we haven't used maybe the calculate. There's a couple calculator things in here that we haven't used. So there is value in this, even if it's a little bit outdated of an assignment. So it really starts. I mean, there is some information from 2.1 through this thing to 2.13, I think is where the assignment starts. Yeah, this one, 2.13 dash up on the top. So, so this assignment will be starting here on page 213 and going through step by step through 228. So all the information to create this is through here, even without this video. And so I'm just going to follow this up on my other screen. It ends right here, just saving the file. A lot of it's redundant information, some of the stuff we've already used, but some of it's a little bit of a new technique to draw. So I'm going to have this up on my other screen and kind of follow it step by step. But that's what you'll need to know to even create this without the dimensions. And I'll check the dimensions that it asked me to check in the rubric. So let's do that. Let's jump to CAD and open up my template file. So sometimes I said once I have a nice template file that I've created as a DWT, sometimes I go to my regular file explorer and find that template file. It's metric 2025 right here is what I call it. I've got a couple of them I need to, I think this one I've got it correct. Yeah, looks like everything's been exploded correctly. And it's already a DWG that I need to name something, maybe the assignment name. I'm just going to check that I had the right text. I do have the right text. Okay, so I have a few of these templates kicking around, so I got to be kind of careful. I'll do a save as this assignment name. This is the rocker arm, right? This is going to be in week 4 for me, and it's this rocker arm. I'll call it in class. So I have a new one. It's going to be DWG. As I upload this one, it'll be DWG created from my DWT file. So there it is. Ready to draw. Go to the model space and let's draw. Not worried about that. So really it says, if I'm following the step-by-steps, I'm going to draw circle radius circles. So it wants us to start this particular first circle on the origin point. So, and it's going to be a 50 millimeter radius circle. So circle center radius. This is, if I have my dynamic input on, my little plus in my right here, dynamic input, then I get the dialog box for coordinate point. And so I can put 0, tab 0, and that center is now on the origin point. I think I've told you before this, whenever I see this, I think of maybe a machined part that's center, that's origin point controlled. So it's 50 millimeters for the radius of that. Then it wants us to do a couple more circles by coordinate point as well. I think the first one is a 70-40, so that's 70 millimeters X, 40 millimeters Y. And from the origin, and that one is going to be a radius of 25. I think we have two 25 radius circles. They kind of do give the dimensions in the, like you can either look at the pictures and get the dimensions, or I'm just kind of reading through this to find out that the center's 70-40. First one was 0-0. And the next one is going to be 70-40, which is in the positive quadrant. And the other one's going to be -50 to -60, which is kind of a negative quadrant for the coordinates of it. So let's place those two. Yeah. Didn't get a haircut. Still gotta get a haircut. It's not my wife's fault. It's my fault. She's like, "Do you want a haircut?" And I was like, "I'm too busy." Of course, right? Let's see. I will now. Every time I see myself on camera. Okay. Um, let's do it. Circle. This is also by radiuses, so I can use center radius here. I'll put in the coordinates of the first one, which was 70-40 up in this area, and it's a 25 radius. And then I'll just do that again with it's -50 and -60 as far as the coordinate points are. And then the radius value is the same as 25. So does that look correct? Did I mistype something? -50, -60. Oh, I guess that looks correct. Even this it's definitely not like symmetrical perfectly. I can tell that this circle is closer to that one than that one. That's what threw me off. But if I'm referencing this, I feel like I've got it right. They're not exactly So I could take back what I said at first. Maybe this isn't as exactly as symmetrical as I thought it was, but so I have to be a little careful, especially if I was thinking I could mirror something that maybe I can't mirror. The next step is to do some lines that what we call tangent lines, like from this circle to that circle, this circle not here, but across the top here. The overall shape is some tangent lines. I've looked ahead a couple pages here. Where I'm kind of headed is I've got these two tangent lines from circle to circle. So that's what I'm kind of putting in. They give you some specific instructions about your O snaps and what you'd have to have on. It's probably different a little bit than mine because me, I like to have a lot of object snaps on. I don't like to toggle these off that much. I just like to really pinpoint the one that I want to use by doing a shift right click selection. So what I need is these tangent lines here. And so I can just pick the line command and maybe readily when I click these, it's not the first thing that shows up as tangent. In fact, maybe I don't even have tangent on, do I? I do have tangent on. It's just not, it's like the quadrants are coming up, but that's about it. So how I do that is I hold down shift and then I right click and then I get that menu that I can just, you know, only choose one of the snaps to focus on. And I'm going to choose tangent. And then that's the only snap that's going to come up on no matter where I was going to place this. Tangents, it's like overriding all other snaps. Shift right click while I'm in a command will help me isolate a snap. And that's what I'm going to do here. But then it just goes, it's only a one-time use, right? So I use this a lot though. So it's pretty second nature to me to shift right click and override those snaps. And then I'll just enter or escape that command. So that's a and really in the mathematical world, right? This line tangent to this circle, it actually only touches this endpoint where it shows up on this circle. That's the one point in space. If I could zoom in forever, there's only actually one point that line is touching that circle. It's called the point of tangency, and it has a coordinate point associated with it. So in this particular orientation, if I select this point and it has this coordinate point, that's really the only point in this whole space where this line is tangent to that circle. And the same thing exists here. So that is one coordinate point based off of the laws of geometry, I guess. And I'm going to do another line though. And I'm going to do it as well, like tangent. That's shift right click to pick tangent, and then shift right click to pick tangent again. And then I'm locking in on those on those specific object snaps. So that was the first step. It was just, and they might walk you through a bit more wordy. You know, I look at these instructions as word salad sandwiches. Sure, you can make sense out of them. The programming might be a little different now than it was, 7 years ago. That's the nature of this. They might be talking about grid mode. I don't know. Maybe they're turning off snap to grid, but you can read through this. This is good to know how to read through. I'm a picture person, so sometimes when I even look at all these words, I think like, what are the pictures showing me? Yeah, yeah, I get it. Okay, let's move on. So I can be a crappy student actually myself, but let's see here. We did the line, we did these tangent lines. It's a few pages just to get those lines in. I get it. Okay, cool. So the next step, once I have my lines in, is to the other side is curved actually. It's not, they end up using and this is good. Part of this is just using a different kind of circle function, but we're gonna use a tangent radius type of circle command, and this would be a specific application for it. Like I need a curvature in here that works with the existing geometry I have. In this case, they're gonna they want like a 50 circle with a radius of 50 right here to be tangent to this little circle and this one here in the upper right kind of my model space. And then in the lower one, we need a radius of 40, a little smaller circle here that's also tangent, that's also touching both of these two lower left circles area. And with a radius of 40. So two different radiuses, a little bit different shape going on. So it's not symmetrical if I was divide. I know it's kind of like turned at a weird angle, this whole part. And you can scroll ahead to look at the end. I think I should have like, well, you can see my drawing too that's posted, but at the end on page 228, I think it shows the, well, maybe, I thought eventually it shows the whole shape. I don't know, but let's go back to where I was right here. We'll put these two circles in. So this is helpful to learn how to use a a tangent radius type of circle. We'll use that. So tangent radius wants to first know, and you don't have to specify different grips on here because it already knows just by the laws. I mean, the command itself needs to, it's going to pick like you pick 2 points, like specify point on object for first tangent of circle. It doesn't have to be another circle necessarily, just geometry that it could be tangent to. In this case, there are two circles, so that's one point of tangency. Specify the second point for the second, and that is the other one. And then it just walks me through this command, like tangent radius means select the two tangent features first, then define a radius, which I think is 50 millimeters on this one, and that's that circle. Now, if you just go enter back into the command, it's kind of a center radius default one, but you could come down to this command line and pick it right here, tangent radius. It gives you at least a few different options. Now I'm into the tangent radius command, and I could say this one, and 40 is the radius of this one. So it looks like that. And then where do we go from there? I think we just start trimming. Yeah, it goes through the trim functions and it shows you how we want to trim, but essentially we want to trim this out so that it ends up looking like this down on like number 11 here. So I'm trimming out everything except for, yeah, so I'm just going to trim this to fit. So let's go back to this, take a look. I'm going to select my trim command, and we just want this shape, just my outline. So I don't need this, and I don't need this. And I don't need this part of the circle or this part. Now that's actually the outline of the shape. So I really can trim this out and trim this out. It's keeping parts of those. Those have center lines still associated with them, those radiuses, but that's the trim there. So it's all segmented pieces, and we could join it. It doesn't really have us. Maybe it has us do that later, or maybe it doesn't. Um, so it's probably not something I evaluate in the. And then the next thing I wanted to learn is just how to use this other polygon. So it's going to have us use polygon command, which is the option of rectangle and polygon. Then it says enter six sided. So it's going to like, that's going to want to know how many sides of a polygon were drawn. This particular assignment has us use a six-sided polygon. And we're going to put it at 0, 0. So that could be helpful. And then it's going to ask us this inscribed in a circle or circumscribed about a circle. So that's the difference of if my polygon is kind of like confined within a circle as the reference and controlling dimension, or if it's circumscribed about a circle, meaning the circle lives inside the polygon. And it's just a matter of how it dimensions it. So we're going to choose circumscribed about a circle, and we're going to say that the circle radius is 30. So that's kind of critical. So let's go to our drawing and say we're going to pick that polygon command. It's right here. And polygon command always says, well, number of sides, I think default is 4, like a rectangle, but we'll say 6 and enter. And then it just says specify center. I could pick a center, but I think I'm just going to say 0, tab 0, origin point. Circumscribed about a circle is what it asks me. So that was a quick selection on that. And then I can actually rotate this in orientation. I believe the object is oriented like this, to where some of my polygon is perfectly horizontal, right? And then it just needs to know this radius, which I don't know. I can't remember. Let me look. I think it's 40 or no, 30. 30 with like two sides of the polygon perfectly horizontal. So let me go back over here. I should still be in the command. Yep, I'll just kind of position this like this, and I'll say that it's 30 because it's asking me for a radius 30. Circumscribed about a circle. So it means the circle radius should the points of tangency on that circle will touch the sides of that. Now, that's why it's like 30 out to the edge from the center out to these edges here, because that's the center of the circle. If it was circumscribed, if it was, what's the other option? Let me look. If it was circumscribed in a circle, then this would be a little bit different. But so that's that one. I think we do another one with a four-sided polygon that is snapped to the center of the circle we actually originally drew. That center still, that object snap still exists. So I should be able to get it circumscribed about a circle again. Switch on the grid snap. The grid snap will allow you to orient this, I think, in a true horizontal or vertical, kind of like an orthographic would. But so I may have to turn on the grid snap there. We'll see. I think it just is helping me like align it uh, true horizontal. But let's see what the difference is here. So it's another polygon, and default was 6, or it's 6 now because I used 6 last, so it's back to 4. Specify center. I'm just gonna reference this radius, and then it shows up the center, and then I'll choose it. Circumscribed about a circle, and then there is my. I just don't know what the radius of the circle is. Let me look again. Um, Oh, it's going to use the grid to snap. The reason why I need you to snap to grid is they're going to use the grid spacing to drive the length of this. So you're going to go to the next grid space. So that's why it's kind of a funny thing. I'm not snapping to grid, so it really wants me to like put it in a dimension. They didn't give you one in the instructions, so they really want you to like turn on your snap to grid for a second. Like I never draw. They want this, and then I'm gonna pull out and snap it to the next grid. I think like that. So that's snapping to that next grid. So it kind of, the reason why I don't love it is because it makes it, these are in 10 millimeter increments that it's growing. So, and I don't have any other control other than that grid to snap to it. So it works good. In this case, they're kind of telling you that's, I guess, a 20 millimeter across, because it just so happens that that point they put us is perfectly on a grid. So this was a pre-planned thing, and I'm just snapping to that grid like that. I can turn that off. So kind of a unique way. What's the next step? Got that one on a grid. We need a circle, center point, circle. I think they give us all the information. It's a radius is 10, and it's lined up with this other radius. So I'll put another circle there, and then we'll move into the calculator and check area. So I'll jump back over here and do a radius of 10. So I'll do a center radius circle, reference that for a minute, and then get the center, and then it's 10. That should be the completed look of the shape. Now let's do some measurements here. I think. Yeah, it just says bring up your calculator, and this is critical. This is really handy, especially when I'm just looking to like do some calculations and pull some measurements from my drawing and just use my calculator. And so I view this as handier just to like learn how to use your calculator a little bit strategically. So it just wants me to measure a couple things, like some distances between points. And if I go back to the assignment, what I really need to verify that's correct is that the top tangent line is 76.6485. So let me just focus on that one. I'm going to measure this and make sure it's correct. 76.6485. So this is the top tangent line that it's referencing, by the way. This is the top tangent line that we drew. Maybe this is the bottom one. I think it only wants me to measure this top one. So we know that we can do this measurement, like a quick distance from endpoint to endpoint, should be picking out that distance. So for whatever reason, they wanted to show you that if you were doing a calculation with this number, you could just have that calculator input into, you could just pick those points and have it input into your calculator. So your utilities, here's your calculator. I pull it up. Usually it shows up the last place I used it. I might use it like this. But your calculator, if I'll clear it out here, has these little commands across the top. get coordinates, distance between 2 points. This is the one they want you to use, which is kind of like measuring between 2 points, but it'll actually input this data into your calculator to start doing calculations. So it's kind of handy. You just can use your quick snaps to like input data here. So if I was measuring the distance between 2 points, the calculator goes away while you're doing this, and I'm just going to be like, well, there's 1 point. It's picking up tangent. I think it works the same way that I can like shift, right click, and pick up. Maybe I'm just looking for an endpoint. So it's going to be like endpoint to endpoint, and then it inputs that data into the calculator. And I feel like I could then like choose a function here and then input some more data and come up, you have a running list of calculations that I'm doing for something. But that's just the linear length. That matches what the assignment says it should to 4 decimal places. So that one's correct. If I'll clear this out now, let me look at what the next one on the sheet was. We're gonna check the center distance between the polygon and the hole is 78.1025 long. So it's kind of like, if I looked at the assignment sheet, it shows it too. It's this polygon to this hole. We want to know center to center here. So maybe I can clear this out and choose distance between 2 points again. And here I could probably enter, like the first point is 0, tab 0, and then to this point. And what I did is, I think I'll try that a couple different ways, but I think I can also pick geometric center of this shape from 0, 0. And but this is 78, 1025 or 1024. Let's see what the rubric says it should be. Again, 1025. So this is rounded up. That's fine to 4 decimal places. Let me go back and like look at that one more time, though. I'm going to clear this out. If I needed to measure between 2 points, I think I might be able to say shift click and pick geometric center and then have that show up like that. And then to this, maybe I have to say enter on that. And then here, yeah, it can be a little tricky with that coordinate point of 0, 0. It can be a little tricky to get this with the object snaps. Like I can pick here, and then the next point is maybe 0, tab 0, enter, and it'll pick it up, but it's hard to pick it up from an object snap and get it. Anyway, that is correct. The last one to check is the angular measurement one. There's this like angled distance of top tangent line. That's the one we measured here. Is 11.6874 millimeter from horizontal. So what it's saying is, if I go back to, it's saying this top tangent line, like from true horizontal, which is 0 degrees, how much up is this line? So that's something we can measure with our calculator here. My calculator went weird for a minute. Okay, clear it out. So distance between 2 points we've used twice. How about the angled defined by 2 points? Oh yeah, it's defined by 2 points. So I feel like I can choose the same endpoints of this. So I might isolate endpoint and say here, and then isolate the next endpoint to here. And that is a degree that it's kicking up because I chose degree. It's not really clear. You would think you just picked, but it already knows that in this model space world, this x-axis or whatever is on 0, 0, or sorry, just 0 degrees. So anything up from there, it's calculating this line sits at 11.6804 degrees from 0. That's not real clear. That's kind of a weird. I can't say that I wouldn't use something like just my measurement angle and say, well, what is this, compared to this? There's 12 degrees. And this is spitting out 12 because I have this set to give me whole degrees, and I might need to increase the precision of that. Let me see if I can increase that precision. What it would be is a unit thing. And let's see if I actually see, this is what's killing it at 12 degrees is my precision is at 0. What if I add 4 decimal places to this? Say okay. And now I'm going to do that same measurement with this angle and this line. Sorry, let me do that again. Measure this. What it wants is it wants what your geometry is. And then the second line, I'm just picking something that I know is horizontal like this. Now I'm starting to get a higher degree of accuracy based on how my units were set. So that was rounding up to 12. That's a lot of difference than 11.668 degrees, 6804. Maybe this matches the assignment rubric, 6874. So That's correct. And then the object is located correctly on the origin point 0, 0. That's pretty well verifiable just by um I'll escape that, but just by yeah, the way we place that to start with. So that's the end of this one. I think I've gone through most of the instructions. I know I didn't pull them up at every step of the way, but that's how they show you how to measure those. And we get that 6/8, that 11 and some change. Then it just has you save it, and I would do the same thing. Like I'm gonna save this. I've got it saved. That's some work I've done. Technically, I would do what I've been doing, and that might be to join this stuff. That might be I'm gonna join all of this. Shift if I want to unselect something, hold down shift, unselected. I joined all that into a single object selection. And then I like this. The only thing I need to do is like check it. I think this fits on the A4 size sheet. Do the instructions say that? Let's look. I might say that I put it on a. I don't say it doesn't. It wouldn't really matter which template I put this on. I might update this and say put it on an A4 size sheet because I think that's what I'm looking at here. But so I'll update this when I upload this video. So let's go back here and check my A4 size sheet. Yeah, let's click in here and unlock this viewport and then pan this thing over. But I'm pretty, yeah, this fits pretty good here. Yeah, it fits in my viewport that I have. Lock that down. Check this for my PDF, Control P, preview, and check out those line types. That looks good. I just need to change this name. That catches my eye. Cancel. So I'm out here. It's locked down. Let's change this to this one actually has a different name, right? CAD 1108 rocker arm. Number one. I think we might do a couple other rocker arms this semester at some point. And then, of course, the date has changed since I did this template. That's 15th. So this is good. I think I like this Control P better. So just, when you pull these up to view them, have a critical eye and see what you could catch that everything looks aligned, line types plot correctly, and looks like my name. If these are really bold and they look as bold as this, they have the wrong line weight on them, right? These are 0.13 millimeter line weight. So the text is kind of a nice light line weight. So it doesn't become a little bit bold. And then I would say okay on this and save that somewhere here. Save that in right next to my drawing. So this one would be saved somewhere in week 4 where I'm doing this. And it would be, it's a rocker arm number 1. That's kind of funny. I thought I would have already had a PDF for rocket arm number 1. Maybe I'll save this. Well, I uploaded it, so I don't know where I've lost it at. Hmm. Should be in my folder. I have an old name, rocker arm number 1. Yeah, I think I never did save a PDF or to be right next to it like I just saved that one, right? Like this one, technically, I never saved the PDF. This is the first time I drew it, not in class or whatever, just an old drawing. I think I've got it lined up and it's been saved. It's just that I never do a quick preview. I just never saved this one next to the drawing somewhere. Now I have it. Sorry, what threw me off is I knew I should have 2. Refresh that. I have my in class one and I have my original OG. Okay, that's how I would follow that assignment sheet. It's a good it's good to know how to follow that kind of instructional. And that's it.